Welcome to Insights from the Couch, where real conversations meet real life at midlife.
We're Colette and Laura, two therapists and best friends, walking through the journey right alongside you. Whether you're feeling stuck, restless, or just unsure of what's next, this is a space for honest conversations, messy truths, and meaningful change.
And our Midlife Masterclass is now open. If you're looking to level up, get into action, and make midlife the best season yet, go to insightsfromthecouch.org and join our waitlist. Now let's dive in. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Insights from the Couch. I have a great guest here with me today, Ashley Oerman. I'm going to have her introduce herself in just a moment. We have a fantastic topic and I can't wait to tell you about her book. Laura's not able to be with us today because she's in the process of moving, but she'll be back next week. Without further ado, Ashley, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's so great to talk to you.
You too. All right. So tell us the name of your book and a little bit about you, because we're going to be talking about the most complicated but important topic today, motherhood, and the fact that not all of us have a great relationship with our mom or get a great mom or are great moms. That's the truth. And I know a big part of your mission is normalizing that, which is so important. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So my name is Ashley. I am a health and wellness journalist. I'm currently the deputy editor at Wondermind, which is a mental health media company. Before that, I was the lifestyle director at Cosmopolitan. And yes, I am now the author of Motherfucked, How to Stop Your Mother's Toxic Drama from Ruining Your Life. If you couldn't tell from the title, this book is a self-help book for people who have dysfunctional relationships with their moms. This book is based on interviews with therapists. It's based on grief and attachment theory research. And I also share some of my own experiences as well.
Fabulous. I mean, as a therapist, I am so glad you wrote this book. And I have to say, Ashley, you had me at Motherfucked. The title is amazing. It's so good. Chef's kiss on that. And this is a really important topic. You know, people tend to look at this as really black and white, right? Either like somebody's so awful and abusive, or they're the most wonderful, loving, nurturing 1950s ideal. And the reality is many mothers fall many places in between. And it's such an important but complex relationship. Could you start by just sharing a little bit about your own story and your experience? Because it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. So I think I'll tell you a little bit about like how this book came to be because it's intersected with my own story. So in my mid-20s, I got my dream job at Cosmopolitan, and I quickly realized that I had some pretty intense social anxiety going on. And I would be in my pitch meetings where we pitch ideas for the magazine, and I couldn't read the notes on my page. I couldn't breathe. Sometimes my face would turn like so red. And I was like, man, I think this is gonna be a problem. I mean, I need to see a therapist. And so I started therapy. My therapist and I really circled around this question: why do you care so much if people see you as weird or awkward?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it's pretty obvious who wants to be weird or awkward. But eventually I came to the realization that I didn't want my coworkers or my friends to see me the way that I saw my mom. And yeah, that was not like an exciting moment. It was really, I felt very ashamed. I felt embarrassed because here's this huge issue in my life that I'm trying to manage, and it's tied back to my mom. I'm a cliche. This is embarrassing. And the other thing was that my therapist was basically validating something that I had suspected for a really long time, which is that this relationship is not good. It is not healthy. So even though I was making progress in therapy in that way, I really just felt stuck in that shame and that stigma. And that kept me from really doing anything about the issues I was having. I really just couldn't believe my own feelings or do anything about those feelings. And so the reason I wrote this book is because I don't want people to be stuck as long as I have been stuck.
Yeah.
Also, as a health and wellness journalist, it's like in my DNA to like take the things that I've learned and turn them into information for people. I just like literally can't help but overshare and
Love
investigate.
that,
That's
right?
how this came to be.
Wow, wow. So your own story, your own experience, and this struggle point that was really an inflection in your own life of realizing, wow, so much of why I'm feeling stuck now comes back to this mother wound, and having a therapist actually validate that in fact much of what you experienced wasn't healthy. How had you, I'm just curious, how had you thought about your mom and your relationship with her before then?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question. So, when I was probably 8 or 9, I was outside with a friend and her mom came out and was like, "It's time to come in for dinner." And as I was chatting with my friend's mom was putting her arms around my friend and sort of like playing with her hair and just being kind of like snuggly in a casual way. And I was like, "Oh,
What's
that
that?
looks good. I want some. How do I get that?" So, honestly, I went home and I just asked my mom, "Why don't you baby me anymore?" And she was like, "You want me to treat you like a baby?" And I was like, "No, of course not." I tried to explain I wanted to be snuggled and cuddled and I don't know, nurtured as an 8-year-old. And as I tried to explain that, she said, "Oh, so you want a smother mother." And this was like,
Ooh,
yeah, I know. This was like her term that she used to describe any mom who was like, in her perspective, overly nurturing.
right.
And so that shut it down. That shut it down right away. And I will say, I think that's pretty much the last time I really voiced what I wanted in that relationship. And as I got older, our relationship got more complex, of course. But it really felt as sort of like hollow as it did when I was 8, in that my mom had this idea of what a healthy, I don't know if she thinks of it as healthy or not, but my mom has this idea of what a good relationship between us looks like. And I have a very different idea of what a good relationship between us looks like. Unfortunately, even as I got older and started therapy and found the words to describe the things that I felt were wrong with our relationship, she's not able to meet me on those things. So I think that might answer your question.
Yeah, yeah. So, wow, even at 8 years old, you're asking really, hey, I want nurturance. I want connection with you. I want all of that good juju that makes us feel bonded on an attachment level that, should ideally, doesn't always, unfortunately, but come naturally. That is what we think of as the mother child bond. But so often that's missing. And of course, as you address, many people parent the way they were parented. There's trauma, there's personality disorder, so many factors
Mhm.
playing in here. Do you know much about your mom's history? I'm just curious if she also had a pretty tough upbringing or there were ways that she hadn't been loved and maybe didn't know how to show love as a result.
Yeah, so I don't know a ton. And I think that's one thing that's really hard about these relationships is that there's this trend on TikTok where people are saying, "Oh, I just remembered that my mom is also just a girl in this life for the first time." And I get that. But I think it's also dismissing that our moms have a big influence on us and they are unfortunately human just like us, and that can impact us in ways that are really painful, and hard to acknowledge. And understanding why our moms are the way they are, in my experience, doesn't necessarily help me feel better about it.
Oh, I don't think it would help you feel
Yeah.
better at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the one thing that can be helpful is that you can say, okay, this isn't about me. This is about how she grew up. This is about her stuff. Which is really hard to do, as I'm sure you know, like as a child, it's our default to be like, everything going on in my mom's life is like because of me. It's my fault.
Yeah.
It's about me. And so disconnecting that can be really tough to do. But yeah, so no, I do not really know why my mom is the way she is. And I've like finally made peace with that. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, wow. No, it's so interesting. And I agree. I think it's such an important point. Even if there's a reason, there are just as many people. We're all wounded to a degree. Many people, in fact, there's probably three people walking around on earth who really had an idyllic parenting dynamic, if we're really honest. It's on us to heal our wounds and learn and be able to be there for the people we love most, regardless of what we've experienced. So you have also a nickname for your mom, right? Tell me
Yes,
a
I
little
do.
bit about that.
Yes. This is something that I came up with while I was venting to my friends, like in who had never met my mom, but would just hear these crazy stories. And in order to sort of like mentally separate like the crazy things my mom would do or say from like the idea of the mom that I wished I had, I would kind of like made up this alter ego called Foxy. So I would say like, oh, Foxy strikes again. Like, can you believe this crazy thing she did? In the book, yes, I do refer to her as Foxy throughout, which is also helpful when you're writing a book and you don't want to say my mom all the time. But yeah, I hope that it adds a little bit of like lightheartedness
Yeah.
to a topic that's pretty intense.
Heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, psychologically, that's really an adaptive strategy to cope with the fact that even at a young age, you're realizing it sounds like something is missing here. Something's not right, even before you had a therapist to validate it or you had language for it. I mean, is that right? That you knew something was missing?
Yeah, so that was probably like in my 20s when I was trying to like make light of like something that was actually really painful.
Mm.
Like my mom giving me like a used eyebrow pencil for Christmas. And being like,
Seriously?
"Wow, can you believe this?" That was something that did happen, yes. I think that she thought no gifts meant like I'll accept whatever you want to give me. I don't know. Foxy strikes again. You can't make sense of it. It's crazy, but that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so and then when you do get to the point where you try to communicate with your mom and express some of what hasn't felt good or has been hurtful, and maybe even the point of expressing what you need and want, you said she
Mhm.
couldn't meet you there. What kind of responses would you get? Because this is where so many people struggle. And I want to talk about the low contact, no contact versus trying to work through it. Of course, everyone's story is different, but there's so much strong opinionating out there and telling people how they should and shouldn't do it. And the reality is, a lot of people try to repair, and that other person can't or won't meet you. So, how was that for you? And what kind of responses did you get from your mom when you tried?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna try and give you like 6 years of history in like the shortest amount of time possible.
Okay.
Um, so there was this time my mom came to visit me in New York City where I live. She and my nana came out to visit and stayed in my studio apartment with my then boyfriend and I for like 5 days. And so yeah, it was like pretty tight. And like during that trip, she did some like pretty random things that really hurt my feelings. There was a moment where we were eating grapes around my coffee table and she threw the stems on the ground. And I was like, I'm sorry.
What?
That was crazy. Yeah. Or like we would be out in public and she would like kind of leave the group to go talk to strangers about whatever. And when she left, I luckily at that point had started therapy. So I was just like venting to my therapist, like, can you believe this and this and this? This is crazy. And she was like, have you ever thought about telling your mom how this makes you feel? And I was like, no, of course not. Why would I do that? And she's like, well, maybe give it a shot. And at that point, I can't really remember a time where I really told her how I felt. I think maybe there was a moment in college where she did something and I was like, hey, that wasn't cool. And she was like semi-receptive to it, whatever. So I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. So I call her and I say, like, I didn't like when you did this or this or this. I got really emotional. I was trying to say, like, the bottom line is I want you to want to spend time with me. I want you to see me as important, and like I think that's most of it. And she was kind of like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and that was it. So my takeaway there was really just like, okay, telling her how I feel is really like not useful.
Doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere. So I told her how I felt. She really wasn't receptive. And I was like, okay, this is a data point that she is not going to be receptive to my feelings as I suspected. Cool, moving on. That was probably the last time I really told her how I was feeling about something that she did for like the next 5 years, I think. And in between that time, I was still in therapy and I was talking about all these like issues I had with my mom. And my therapist would still bring up, like, why don't you tell her? Like, why don't we? And I was like, well, the last time was terrible and went nowhere. So why try again?
Yeah.
But eventually I got to the point where I needed to set some pretty intense boundaries.
Yeah.
And in order to do that and feel good about it, I felt it was necessary for me to tell her where I thought the relationship stood. And this is something that I talk about in my boundaries chapter, where we talk about the boundaries concierge. The boundaries concierge is basically like an exercise that assesses your comfortability with assertiveness, and also like your situation with your mom, like how your mom has responded to you in the past. And for my situation, I came up with the state of the relationship speech, which is where you tell your mom or anyone your feelings about the relationship, not for feedback, not for a conversation, just to say it out loud.
Yep.
For yourself.
To honor yourself with the
Mhm.
truth.
Mm-hmm. And that is so hard to do, especially if you've been putting your mom's feelings ahead of yourself, or ahead of your mom's feelings ahead of your feelings for most of your life. Very
Absolutely.
challenging. Yes.
So hard. So hard.
Yeah. So I give her this state of the relationship speech. I go through my bullet points. I say, do you have any questions? I make room for questions. And she like gave me the most beautiful HR response ever, which was like, thank you for sharing this with me. Yes, I would like us to move forward and try to have a better relationship and try to be more open with each other. And I was like, wow, that was easy. And then I was like, let me test this a little bit. And so I was like, okay, for example, here is something that happened at Christmas that hurt my feelings. And immediately she went on the defense. And I was like, okay, I see we're still where we were. The conversation is so helpful because it allows you to gather data on like, how does my mom respond to my boundaries, to my feelings? And then when you collect those data points, you can use them to create more boundaries, or to say, okay, they're responding well to this. Maybe we can move forward in this way.
Exactly.
So for me, the data point was still not working, still not great. So that was around the time that I decided to block my mom's number. And of course, it wasn't just blocking flat out. Like, I had little caveats that would make it more ethical in my mind. So I would unblock her for birthdays and holidays and anniversaries so that she could reach me and I could reach her. Unfortunately, when I unblocked her, the immediate response was like, I never hear from you. You always tell your dad more than you tell me. I call you all the time and you never answer. And not once was she like, wow, I've noticed some distance between us. Did something go wrong? Can I fix something? Is there an
Are you
issue here?
okay?
Are
Yeah.
you okay? Yeah. No, never that. I feel like that's important to point out,
Yeah.
because that was the thing that really helped me realize that I wasn't doing the wrong thing. Because the way that she would respond to me when I would unblock her obviously made me feel very guilty. It made me feel like I was doing something completely wrong. She sent me this text on my birthday that was like, "You never answer my calls," in all caps. "If your doctor told you to do this, so be it." Rainbow emoji. I was like, okay. And that was for a birthday gift to myself. I said, all right, we're blocking this number and we're taking space because this is not working and I can't carry this with me into my next year. So
Right.
from that point on, we have been what I call low contact.
Yeah.
And for me, that looks like I see my mom at holidays when I'm home. I see her at like group dinners. If I'm going to dinner with my immediate family, that's cool, totally fine. Um, when I see her, I give her a hug and I tell her that I love her because I do. But that is really just like my limit for now. And even though I wish it wasn't like this, like I truly wish it was different. I
Yeah.
don't like this. My life has changed so much for the better since I've done this.
How is your life better? How has this helped you?
Yeah, so I remember just like sitting at my desk during the workday and just like thinking about my mom, ruminating about my mom constantly. And I can't even give you a thought that I had because they didn't really make sense. It was like her response to maybe like a thought that I had, or like maybe the last thing she said to me, or if I don't call her this weekend, how am I going to hear about that next? So it was just like, I remember telling my therapist that I would think about my mom like more than 20 times a day and not like fondly. It was like stressful thoughts. And I don't have that anymore.
So
So
there was so
that's
much
great.
rumination and preoccupation because there was so much that was hurtful and unsatisfied. Right? So your mind couldn't reconcile it. And it sounds like to me, and I think this is something people really don't understand because we naturally, psychologically tend to project templates of our own relational experiences onto what other people might be experiencing. Or, I have daughters in their 20s and I have one that tells me everything and wants to talk all the time, another who's like, "You're annoying, mom, stop calling me." But I try to be very, very responsive to what they say, for exactly this reason. I always say it's a top-down relationship. I'm the mom, and, it's not their job to emotionally caretake me. You talk about parentification. I was a parentified child, and I never want that for my kids. And of course, we can wound our kids without trying. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is exactly what you said. Most people, the last thing they would want to do is go low contact or no contact with a parent. It's heartbreaking. But sometimes this relationship is so damaging to your mental health. It's so hard on you that you really have to take care of yourself by either putting in very strict boundaries or in some cases, saying goodbye. And you're describing that you didn't arrive at this place quickly, right? You really tried a lot of things and it was harming you to continue to have your mom have such a diffuse boundary where she had so much access to hurting you.
Yeah, and I really like what you said about taking our own relational template and putting it on other people. That was definitely something that happened for me. There was this moment where my therapist asked me like, "Why can't you just stop talking to her if every time you speak to her you feel terrible?" And I was like, well, I just like think about how much that would hurt her feelings and make her think that I don't love her and make her think that like I don't care about her. And my therapist was like, what if it's not that deep for her? What if she just wants access to you? And I was like,
Oof.
huh,
Yep.
that hurts. But also, it makes sense because she's never been like, I haven't heard from you. I love you.
I
Do you
miss
still love
you.
me? I miss you. Yeah, that never came up. So I can't say for sure if that is my mom's experience, but it did kind of unlock something in my brain that was like, I actually don't know what she will feel if I stop contact with her.
Right.
And you're right. It's like, it's so different. Everybody's relational experience is different, and we can't assume that they feel the same things we do.
Exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
So how has your mom accepted this situation? And did you ever, I'm the queen of compound questions, but did you ever have a conversation where you said, this is how it's going to be? Did you make the boundary explicit, or did you let itself be known through behavioral choices?
Yeah. So at first, I didn't say anything. I blocked her number, and it started to get back to me from other family members that she was telling them that she didn't understand why we weren't speaking. She was saying, Ashley cut me off, and I don't know why. And I
Mm,
was like, well, if you think back 2 months ago to our state of the relationship speech, I did lay out all these things for you. But I wanted to make it so clear that there was
yeah.
no deniability. So I copy pasted my state of the relationship speech, sent it to her in an email, and said, hello, I hope you're well. I've heard that you don't understand why we're not speaking right now. Here is everything that we talked about a couple months ago. I need space. Please don't respond to this email. I love you. That will never change. And of course, she responded to the email, even though I said, please don't respond, which, okay.
Wait, you did? You said, please don't respond. And
I
she
did.
So even
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
that's huge actually, because that's a small but very telling detail. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think this is really, as I'm a relationship therapist, I mean, when somebody you care about tells you, hey, please don't do this, and then you go and do it, that alone is that all you really care about is what you want, not how you impact this other person. That is such a telling detail.
Yes. And I'm so glad you brought that up because it is similar to the rest of the email, her response to the email, which was, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. I'll wait for you to call me. And so I was like, did I not just send you an email with like things that were wrong? And I guess like the things to do would be the opposite of those things.
Right.
So yeah, I think like I'm sure you've heard of the phenomenon of the missing reasons, like
Mhm.
why parents just can't hear what they're doing wrong, or not just parents, but in these like dysfunctional parental child relationships, they really just can't hear anything that's going wrong. And I have a lot of empathy and compassion for that. Like, I just think there's something going on where she just can't take in that constructive criticism.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's ego strength, right? Because I work with couples a lot, and some people in these closest relationships, no matter what, cannot hear because deep down they don't even know that it's saying something about them to them that they can't live with, their idea of themselves. But the job of every person, nobody takes feedback well. Honestly, feedback's hard, right? For
Yeah.
everybody to hear that you're not a good mom, which isn't what people are saying. When my daughters tell me something that I disagree with, there are times that I want to be like, are you kidding me? I just don't see it that way. But I stop myself and say, okay, this isn't about me. This isn't going to help to get defensive. Let me hear and validate the impact I've had because I love this person and I want the relationship. So that is the nugget. That is the micro unit of a relationship, is being able to take feedback that's not flattering to your image of yourself. And it sounds like your mom couldn't hear any of it really ever beyond the HR. Thank you for sharing how you feel.
Yeah.
Thank you
Honestly, I
for
was
doing
very
this.
impressed with that. Yeah. I was like, oh, didn't
She could
expect
hold
it.
it together for a couple
Yes.
of seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
accepted that she just cannot. She can her ego, her sense of self, her inner template for herself doesn't allow her to hear that she may have hurt you in any way or may not be this ideal person.
Yeah. And that took so much work, I have to say. Like, what I learned through this process is that you have to grieve. And grieving means reworking your idea of reality without the thing that you lost in it or the thing that you never had in it. It's like your brain recalculating like what is real. And for people, I think like me, we have this idea of like what this relationship could be. We're like holding out hope that like if I just like maneuver in the right way or give her enough instruction, like my mom will figure it out. Or I can just like deal. And when I got like tired enough of that and I spent time in my feelings of grief and sadness and frustration and everything that comes with grief, I could get to a better place of acceptance of like, this is what it is. Like, this is not changing. Look at all the ways she showed you. It's not changing. Once you accept that, you can make changes that make sense in your reality, not your fantasy of what this could be. And that was such hard, sad work. I have this exercise in the book called Choose Your Own Sad Venture. And having worked at Cosmo, I am like addicted to a flow chart or a quiz. Like I literally just can't help myself.
Totally. That's all of our favorite thing about Cosmo.
It's the best.
The best.
So Choose Your Own Sad Adventure is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's lighthearted. I am not a therapist prescribing these things, but basically it's a tool you could use to assess the best way to grieve in that moment based on like what's just happened to you and like where you are in the world. So
I
like
love this. Oh my God,
Thank you.
tell me more.
Yes.
Great.
For example, if you are on public transportation, commuting home from work, and you have plans later, you know, you're following this on my flowchart, maybe you get home, get in the shower, cry it out in the shower to a really sad breakup song, wash your hair, get out of the shower, get ready to go, and head out for the night. Maybe you don't have any plans that night, so you create a little grief retreat because it's been, you know, a few weeks since you've even felt any of your feelings, and you're like, I need to just like detox all my feelings and like just really let it flow. Maybe in that case, you take a bubble bath and cry it out, or follow that with like watching a sad movie. And in between those activities, you do something to lighten the mood. So you're like kind of just going in and out of grief, learning how to incorporate those feelings into your everyday life, processing it all. And yeah, hopefully it just leaves people with some ideas of like, how do I do grief? Here are some ideas.
Okay, this is great. First of all, this is great. I love that you brought like the Cosmo sparkle to it, but it's really something that I think is a big deal on a mental health level. It's not just light and fun. Grief is really hard. It's heavy. It's peaks and valleys. It's anger. It's sadness. It's loss. It's desolation. It's devastation. I mean, it's the worst. It really is the worst. And there's no other way to go through it than to go through it. And of course, as human beings, we want to avoid anything that doesn't feel good. So people do so much to bat away the grief when really the answer is to, you got to allow it and you don't have to swim and drown in it, but you're giving people a real way. You're making it so accessible that, hey, it's okay. And here are some ideas of what you can do, right? Take out a little chunk of the grief, feel it, and then go, you know, have some chocolate chip cookies and call a friend or, you know, this is so, so helpful to people.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is huge. And this applies to all relationships. As you say, you wrote the book about mothers and these toxic relationships with mothers and how to come to terms with it, but this applies to all our close relationships. Sometimes a relationship just isn't going to be what you want it to be. And I know I relate to what you said just with my ex-husband. I thought if I stood on my head in just a certain way or explained it for the 900th time, somehow I could be loved. And some things, for whatever reason, I'm not vilifying him, but it wasn't going to be. And that radical acceptance that we have to come to, I think a lot of us know and want to be there. But to get there, you've got to do a lot of your own inner work, processing feelings and understanding reality, or we stay stuck in that loop of like longing for something that will never happen, that isn't about us in the first place.
And you bring up, I love that you talked about your experience of this in a relationship, because I think a lot about how we would never tell a friend, like, you should just stick out this relationship even though it's awful. But we will, you might hear from a friend like, oh, well, it's your mom, so just make it work.
That
Yeah. And
In
that's
fact,
really
that's the
hard.
number one relationship, I think, where you will hear that beyond any other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but it's your mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, some of our listeners, and I know a lot of people out there, a lot of people I see in therapy do have that philosophy even within themselves. And it's a personal choice, but I have to just suffer through this because it's my mom. And
Mm-hmm.
you're really giving people permission to maybe think about it differently and maybe explore. Maybe you're not someone who's ever going to go complete cut off, and you don't have to. But maybe there are ways that you can use your boundary concierge, which I love, and really learning by communicating and trying things what the relationship can and cannot be in terms of how it impacts your own well-being. And then you can start to impose guardrails potentially that protect you.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to acknowledge that I am not a hype woman for going low or no contact. There are so many reasons, like you said, to not do that. And I think for a lot of people, setting boundaries can preserve the good parts of your relationship while like getting rid of the bad stuff. And that is incredibly helpful. And I hope that people who read my book that are in that situation where something is salvageable, that they use the boundaries to improve their relationship, not just, set up walls.
Walls.
Mhm.
Right, right. No, and this is so good. I mean, it's so important because there is a lot of this, and your mother arguably has more profound impact on your life, for better or worse,
Mhm.
than any other figure. And a lot of us have complicated relationships with our mom. Even the good ones can be really complicated. So, and you also spoke to Ashley, and I know you addressed this in the book, the attachment piece, how and why. You made an allusion to it at the beginning too, of when we were chatting about how children automatically, the way the brain is developed and the way attachment science works, children, when they're mistreated, it is their fault. That is what it is. Actually safer for a child to believe that, to preserve whatever attachment is there for survival, than to in any way, and developmentally we can't understand yet that, oh, this may be this damaged person who lacks capacity. We don't experience it that way. And
Mhm.
I would argue, even in adulthood, when you can experience it that way, still to feel not loved, right, in the way you want or need to be loved by a parent, this is something that is extremely painful,
Mhm.
just on a human level. It takes a lot to reconcile that.
Yeah, and I also want to be super clear that this book is not a takedown of moms. I love moms. I think moms are the best. I cannot wait to be a mom one day.
Aw, you're
But
gonna be a great mom, I can tell too.
thank you. Moms are humans just like everybody else. And for better or worse, that means they're experiencing life just like everyone else. Not everybody has the right coping skills. Not everybody had a perfect childhood. We all go through traumatic moments. And unfortunately, because of attachment theory and because of the way, employment policies are and laws are, your mom is the most likely to be your primary caregiver as a baby. I can't stress enough how much empathy I have for moms and that like they're just people trying to do their best. But I think it's also important that we pay attention to our feelings in these relationships instead of just making excuses. Because, when your mom is not coming through for you in the way that you need them to, sometimes the idea of the mom and the cultural idea of the mom and the mom you see on a Mother's Day commercial becomes more significant in your mind than the relationship you actually have with your mom.
Yep.
And that was definitely true for me. And I really wish we could sort of untangle that like idealized idea of what a mom should be with our actual relationship with our moms.
Yeah, and moms are human, but it's not an excuse. I mean, one thing, I've made a lot of mistakes as a mom, but one thing I've tried to do is when my daughters have brought those things to me, and I feel like I'm very close to both of them. I have a different relationship with each of them. I have two daughters, and they're about 2 years apart. But one thing I've tried to do that I just want to encourage everyone to do in all relationships, we're talking about it today, is when my daughters have brought things to me like, hey, when you were getting divorced, you were doing this, or you impacted me this way, or, they'll tell me exactly how I fucked up and hurt them and harmed them. And, sometimes a memory for my child was so big and profound. And to me, I don't remember it that way, or it seemed small. But just to really validate that this was your experience and to say, I am so sorry. I deeply regret that. I am really like, not the HR. Thank you for sharing. Like, thank you for feeling safe enough to tell me that I hurt you. And for me as a mom, and for all of you listening, to acknowledge it's okay to say, you know what, it's really hard to hear this. Like, it's hard for me to take this in, but I want to because this relationship matters to me more than anything. And I want to understand and do better. So I think that for me is one of the reasons that my daughters I'm the first person they call when, they're upset or there's a problem, and why I think the relationship is good today, because I haven't defended myself and my image and I accept that the way they experienced me is the way they experienced me, and that I have fucked up. And also, I've done a lot of things right. And I think we need to bring that into the conversation about moms, whether it's our own mom or how we are as a mom.
Absolutely. Well, I love that they are coming to you and feeling comfortable enough to share their feelings with you. That's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think no matter what, on the flip side, even if you're the best mom, you're still going to damage your child in some way. I promise. They'll be talking about you one day in therapy, but hopefully, if you can own it and repair, which is the heart of relationships, no matter how much or how little, you're going to have a thriving relationship later. And, we all learn from what we got from our parents and what we didn't get that we can then carry forward into our own parenting and grandparenting. So it's all learning too. But I
Yeah.
think you're really going to help people with this book. It's fantastic. You're a great writer. You are fantastic.
Thank
So
you.
tell everybody how they can find you and your book, and tell us the name of the book again, the full name, so everybody can write it down. Of course, we'll
Yes.
link in show notes too.
Absolutely. So my book is Motherfucked: How to Stop Your Mother's Toxic Drama from Ruining Your Life. You can find me on Instagram at Ashley Oerman. You can find me on Substack at the same name. I also have a little Substack newsletter called Motherfucked, the Emotional Support Newsletter, where we talk about moms and I share stories from other people about their moms and how they are healing from those relationships. And I always love when people message me and tell me about their moms. So if you want to, my DMs are open always.
Awesome. I'm going to connect with you on Substack too, because I don't think I've done that yet. And I want to get your newsletter. That sounds
Ah,
fantastic.
thank you.
Yeah, well, this has been wonderful. Thank you again for being here. Everyone, grab her book. It's wonderful. It's fascinating and lots of really, really helpful tips too. So, thank you all for listening. I hope you got some insights from our couch today, and we'll see you next time.